100 Winters, Retracing the Great Race Against Death. Written by Jonathan Nathaniel Hayes. Illustrated by Caleb Gingras. Chapter 23, To Safety. When I attempted to open the door, I discovered that the blizzard had built a new snowdrift, sealing us inside the cabin like a grave. We were only able to wedge the top of the door open, maybe 12 inches. Using a small chair, Caleb, the tallest and thinnest of our team, squeezed through the opening. We slid a small shovel out to him, and he dug the door free. I strapped on my headlamp and stepped into the swirling abyss. As soon as I cleared the shack, the full force of the gale struck me down to the ground. The storm, already brutal, had grown even stronger. The reflectors on the snow machines maybe 20 yards away gave me a point of reference. In their lee, I began searching for the dogs. But there wasn't a dog in sight. I shuffled to where I had left them and found only a bit of gangline poking through the hardpack. The dogs were buried. I'd only been inside for a couple hours, but had I waited too long? Was my greatest fear about to be realized? Clasping the gangline in my gloved hand, I pulled and lifted. The bodies of the dogs rose like pale mummies from the icy tomb. The dogs closest to where I lifted were partially hoisted into the air by my effort. But as their bodies were exposed to the full force of the gale, they began to stir, then shook themselves awake. My dogs cannot speak, of course, but they can communicate just fine. With their eyes, they relayed this message. Seriously? We were sleeping comfortably in the eco-bubbles of our snow dens, and you dragged us back into this hell? Do you hate us? No, I muttered aloud. I'd failed them again. Stopping here was wrong, coating them had been wrong, and now pulling them from their subterranean shelter was also wrong. But they stood, all 16 of them, shaking the crust of snow off of their bodies, ready for duty. Well, they're up now, I thought. Exposed again. I might as well follow through and bring them in. Do the right thing, I thought. I couldn't bring them in 2 by 2. It was too risky. I kept being flung to the ground like a rag doll, as it was. If I lost hold of a dog in this storm, I'd never find it again. When I unhitched the first dog, Leif, I turned toward where the cabin should have been, and it wasn't there. Nothing was there. No sky, no ground, just a blasting black void, and the stunted beam of my headlamp, the roar of the wind and the sting of ice. To find my way back to the cabin, I had to shuffle and crawl, sweeping my light over the snow to find specks of wood ash that my boots had carried out of the cabin, or that had been spat out from the chimney. With each dog, I got a little better at the task. Still blind, but learning how to orient myself from the backs of the snow machines to where the shack should be, then through the drifted snowbanks between them. Only when I was within 10 feet of the door would the cabin finally materialize from the storm. When I reached it, a hand, Jeff or Jamie, would reach out, groping for a collar. I'd guide the dog collar into their fists and then set out again. Bringing the dogs in was the humane thing to do. It's what the outside world would expect me to do. But the dogs are not human, and while it may have been the humane choice, it was not the right choice. Under the snow, each dog had been sleeping comfortably, shielded from the gale. Now they were in close quarters, reestablishing dominance, peeing on each other. Low growls rumbled as they sorted themselves out. the cabin filling with their restless energy. What was harmless crusted snow before had now melted into wet dog coats. Not that it mattered, dogs come first, but it was also the wrong decision for the humans. The dogs peed on our gear, bickered all night, and kept us awake. Jeff and Caleb were the only ones who got any sleep. They curled up on the two small cots in the back of the cabin and invited the girls to cuddle close for warmth. Jamie and I sat on folding chairs at the wood stove, poking the fire, nursing melting water pots, swatting away the occasional dog who tried to snuggle too close to the stove and scorch their fur. The hoarfrost on the walls of the cabin glowed faintly in the stove light. We sat and we waited for morning. The 3,000-year-old words of the warrior poet King David played over in my mind. I wait for the Lord, my soul waits. In his word do I hope. I wait for the Lord more than they that watch for the morning. I say more than they that watch for the morning. But morning never really came. At the proper hour, it just got a little less dark. The fierce winds showed no signs of abating. I didn't want to slowly move the dogs back outside one by one, especially now that they were wet. When the time came, we'd move fast and all together. First, we had to dig out the snow machines. They were buried, their motor compartments packed with wind-driven snow and ice. It took more than an hour to get them running. Then we started hitching the team. Jeff handed dogs out the door one at a time, and the three of us shuttled them to the gangline. But in the 15 minutes it took to harness the team, two machines were already stove up again. The dogs curled together in the blasting wind, waiting. When the machines were finally ready, it was time to move. I feared the dogs wouldn't want to rise, but I was wrong. They wanted to leave this godforsaken place as much as we did. But the snow machines continued giving us trouble. First one, then the other. The steering mechanisms were seizing up. Each time Jamie stopped to fix one, snow would fill the motor cavity like sand filling an hourglass. When he got it running again, the steering would freeze up. Or Jeff's would seize up, over and over, until they couldn't get one started at all. Jeff and Jamie worked the motor from both sides. I did the only thing I could do to help. I planted myself between them and the gale, forming a human windbreak. Caleb did what he'd come to do on the expedition. He pulled out his camera to document the unfolding drama. It didn't feel like it, since we were all standing together. But this was one of the most dangerous moments of the entire expedition. The dogs were not moving and fully exposed. Jamie and Jeff were working bare-handed on metal machines for the third time since we'd left the shack. I could see Jamie's face start to blister. He looked up and saw the camera. "Get that camera out of my face," he snapped. The pressure had reached a fever pitch for all of us. Our lives and the lives of the dogs depended on how we managed this moment. Then it occurred to me. The machines were shutting down because we were moving too slowly. The blizzard was infiltrating every crevice and every moving part. The machines needed to move. The dogs needed to move. We needed to move. "Jamie," I offered, speaking as gently as I could and still be heard over the wind, Jeff's machine is still working. We can't be more than 30 miles from Nome. Drop the freight trailers and have him haul you to town. Get the machine repaired and then come back for the trailers today or even tomorrow." "I don't want to leave you," Jamie replied with mutual care. "The dogs are running great. Caleb is with me on his machine. He can ride close behind in case there's more racers to come." "Are you sure?" "Yes. Go get the machine sorted. We got this. Okay. Jamie shared the plan with Jeff. They dropped their trailers, hitched Jamie's machines to Jeff's machine, and they pulled away. Progress, I thought. Now we can keep moving. But just then I felt a hand on my shoulder. It was Caleb. My machine won't start. I immediately turned to stop them, but Jeff and Jamie were gone, swallowed by the white void. We were so close to the finish, closer than the distance of any other day's travel, and the blowhole was ensuring that everything that could be shaken was shaken. Everything that could fail was failing. So close. I stomped back to his machine. He tried to start it again. Should we leave it? He asked, genuinely constructive. Move, I snapped. I tried to start the engine. I tried the things I'd seen Jeff and Jamie do. Then I lost it completely. Despite trying to keep my tongue under subjection all expedition, I burst into a string of curses, kicked my sled, collapsed on the leeward side to cool off. The gusts whistled through the zippers on my sled bag like reeds on a woodwind. Think, Jonathan, think. Gunnar Kaysen was faced with a decision of his own on that fateful night a century ago, emerging from the blowhole. He reached point safety at 2 a.m., where he was supposed to hand off the serum to the final musher in the relay, Ed Rohn. Next to Sapala, Rohn was one of the most accomplished mushers in all of Alaska. He was known to have the fastest sprint team in Nome, able to beat even Sepala in shorter distances. This is why he was the logical choice for the final push to Nome. Kaysen knew he was supposed to relay the serum to Rohn and his fresh, fast team. Why he opted to keep going remained a point of great contention in subsequent years. The answer depended on who you asked. Kaysen later argued that he felt time would be lost by waking Rohn, who would have to hitch up his team. As a musher, I find this explanation hard to believe for a couple reasons. First, any competent musher could get dressed and hitch his team within half an hour. Ed Rohn was more than just an accomplished musher. Further, the instructions were for the serum to be warmed at each of the roadhouses to keep it from freezing. Bypassing Rohn at point safety meant the serum was frozen solid by the time it reached Nome. It took Dr. Welch 5 hours to warm it enough to be used. That was time that should have been spent warming the serum and hitching Rohn's team in safety. These facts suggest that the alternate explanation offered by Kaysen's detractors is the more likely one. Many claimed that Kaysen knew whoever crossed into Nome with the serum would be a national hero, and he wanted the glory for himself and his team. While his quiet demeanor would seem to reduce that possibility, the subsequent Hollywood acting contracts he and Balto received seemed to lend this theory great credence. The debate raged on and split the community of Nome for decades following. We will never know what Gunnar was really thinking when he mushed past Ed at point safety that night. Whatever his true motives were, he pressed on for Nome. Like Kaysen, I too had a decision to make, so I stood up, embarrassed by my temper tantrum, and set myself to action. I started unloading gear from my dog sled. "What's the plan?" Caleb asked in his steady, kind tone. Do Canadians ever lose their temper? I remember thinking. "We're leaving the machine. You can come back for it later with Jamie and Jeff. Hop in." He climbed in, and I zipped the sled bag closed over him. Only his eyes and the top of his anorak hood peeked out. "Hike, hike!" 1 man, 2 men, it made no difference to the dogs. With no machines to distract or slow them, they were finally allowed to do what they longed to do since we hit this hostile stretch of coast: run. As we neared Solomon, the wind eased. The closer we got to safety, the cleaner the sky and the brighter the sun, confirming everything I'd heard about this region. I stopped in safety to snap a picture of my team and my passenger in front of the Iditarod checkpoint, the safety roadhouse, still closed for the season. Caleb said aloud what I'd long argued: "It's much colder on a dog team than behind a snow machine." Any man who thinks it's warmer standing in the brunt of the wind behind a dog team than straddling a combustion engine behind a windshield with heated hand grips has clearly not done enough of one or the other. Here the mile markers began their countdown to Nome. 21, 20, 19. It was reassuring to know exactly how far we were, but as Jamie would later note, it also made every mile feel a lot longer. The road had been plowed at some point early in the season, but drifting snow had turned it into a field of moguls. The dogs loved it. Caleb, not so much. It was a jarring ride in the basket. I think we were about 12 miles from Nome when I saw 2 snow machines approaching from the hills ahead. It was Jamie and Jeff. Turns out the machine just needed 30 minutes in a heated garage to spring back to life. They were ready to head back into the gale and retrieve the trailers. "Wait, stop," I called to Jamie as he prepared to take off. He hadn't seen my passenger. I pointed down to the sled. Jamie looked down and saw Caleb peeking out of the bag. "Oh my God, is he okay?" "He's fine, but his machine died the second you guys took off. He'll need a ride back with you to get it." As Caleb climbed out, I added, "I'll wait a few miles out of town. We're a team. We'll enter Nome together." As they pulled away toward the white void, I pulled the snow hook and gave the command, or rather, the permission, for the dogs to continue. In that moment, it occurred to me that where the machines had failed us, the dogs had prevailed. Just like a century ago. Then, dogs braved the extremes that grounded planes and blocked steamships. Now, once again, they had overcome what had shuttered our most advanced machines. The ancient technology of the Nordic people had triumphed again, carrying man from peril to safety, and now on to Nome. Thanks for listening to Chapter 23 of 100 Winters. If you've been listening all along, then I want to ask you to do a few things. Click like and subscribe to this podcast, but more importantly, I want you to go to Amazon and order a copy of this book. You can also reach out to us on social media or on our website at Mush, Maine, and request an autograph copy if you'd like. And until our final chapter next time, Godspeed and happy trails.